What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Now, I've been told to not look at the confidence monitor that's right there.
Because the whole last episode you just stared at, and everybody's like, "What's wrong with Nick?"
He didn't just stare at it. That was the thing. If he was always staring there, at least that would make sense. He's doing this the entire time, which is extra funny because Kevin, cut to this guy. When there's so much attention on it, when it just looks like this.
Like there's
it's
gremlins.
like extra funny.
It's true. It's true. It's
yeah,
hard. It's hard.
I'm just looking out for you.
I appreciate that. It's a really good note because this is eventually. I will desensitize to the fact that everything I want to change every single thing in the studio, but for right now, it's just such a brand new baby. I just took it home. I was worried that someone was going to hit it.
What'd you do to that brand new baby when you got it?
I just took it, put it, swaddled it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
put it in its little crib, right? And then I just watched it breathe all night. And then I watched it breathe. And then I grabbed the pillow. No, I'm joking.
Over
it's
here,
fine.
the Pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
I don't know.
It was him like thinking about killing the baby.
Oh, okay. Well, is that another time? Is that going to be a topic this week?
I don't know. The child kicking the shit out of the
People love
children
this fighting five
whenever so well.
Ripping their heads off.
Yeah.
That was a funny episode. I thought that was an authentic.
That was a really good episode.
The only thing I know from any
like
feedback for anything we do is when Tim goes, "Hey, the comments were either positive or negative." I don't even read them myself. I just ask Tim. He could be lying to me.
I wouldn't lie to you.
That's the pure line.
Wouldn't lie to you.
Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
Tim, I like your shirt.
Thank you.
It's very reminiscent of a shirt I have.
Is it?
Yeah, I wear it sometimes. You've seen it. I got the checkered. I got the.
You do got the
stuff.
checkered.
Now, of course, we're in a Heather Gray shirt here.
Yeah, I thought I'd bring it
I
back.
haven't seen this one in a
No,
while.
I only have like 3 Heather Gray shirts. I just only have like 5 shirts.
Second.
I have 4 now because I think one got thrown out. My PBS shirt finally got.
No,
yeah,
the PBS was like you to a T.
The PBS shirt Danielle did. She looked at it and was like, "It's got to go," and I fought for it.
How hard did you fight?
Real hard.
Yeah.
Just
give me the argument. Here, I'll do it.
I was like, "Babe, this is my."
Babe, I'm gonna throw this away.
I'm like, it's my favorite. I started negotiating. Right, I was like, "Babe, it's my favorite shirt. You can't throw it away. I love it." She's like, "It's got the weird things in the pits from all the deodorant that you've worn. Like it's starting to get hard underneath there and crusted." And I was like, "Great. I'll just use it as a workout shirt. Then we'll put it in the workout drawer because like when it goes from the closet to the workout drawer, that's usually fine. Usually I can keep it for another year or so."
Yeah.
And she was like, "The pits are so disgusting that anytime you lift your arm above your head, people are gonna get freaked out. It's got to go." And then I was like, let's just table this discussion, right? We'll come back to it. And she goes, "Sure." It's gone.
No,
I haven't seen it since. Haven't seen it since.
You fell for it. The false truths.
It's gone. But you know what? That's what you have to do sometimes because as you know me, I'm very OCD about stuff, and I will just hold on to everything and hoard until they have to just dig me out of my own apartment.
Like all the G.I. Joes that are now in this building.
Yeah, which Kevin's like, "So what are we gonna do with those?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna sell." Colin and I have a great plan in place. We're going to go on yojo.com. We're going to list each individual toy.
This is never going
on
to happen.
the marketplace. And we are we'll split the profits 50-50.
If you're going to sell the figures, I'll buy them from you. If you're selling the vehicles, I'll help you sell the vehicles. I don't want them.
Let's look through the figures. I might be persuaded to be selling those. But
Let's
the
make
vehicles.
a deal. Colin is going to fucking take you for every fucking penny.
The thing is,
he'll buy him
you're going to be paying
he's
me
gonna buy him
$500
15 cents on the dollar for these things and then go flip them on Yojo.
He's never going to flip them, first of all, because Colin's not the kind of person that could actually part with a G.I. Joe.
No,
he
never.
can't do it. There's
I've
no way he
never
would
sold
buy
a G.I.
them,
Joe,
and
only buy them.
He would keep them in pristine order and probably hand them over to his children one day. And by hand, I mean like lease them to them for life. And then if one of the kids, God forbid, something should
got
happen to
smothered
him,
by Uncle Nicky,
Colin gets the Joes back. That's just the way it's going to go.
If you didn't know, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where we post the entire show topic by topic. Nope, that's not right. Kevin threw me. We post it early there. You can go there and you can get it early. You give us a few bucks, you get it early. There's a bunch of perks and cool stuff like that. Kevin got up and started stomping.
What do you mean, the lumbering giant that threw you up? What kind of a professional are you? You can't fucking Jack and the Beanstalk comes at you and it shakes you?
Jack and the Beanstalk.
What was that show where the guy came down the stairs, or there was we talked about this, I think, on a previous show. There was like an 80s show with like a giant that lived in a house with a woman, and it was like a blue house. And I gotta find
dinosaurs.
Not dinosaurs.
Big blue house.
No, someone out there knows. I'm gonna find exactly what I'm talking about.
Giant that lived in a
Yeah,
house.
I think he hit his head all the time when he came down the stairs or something. I'm
I'm
gonna
sheer comedy.
It was one of those 80s children's thing, I think, that had no business being
cartoon?
No, it was live action.
I don't know.
I'm going to investigate it.
When you go to patreon.com/kindafunny, you get the episodes early, a whole bunch of exclusive perks, and you get to give us all sorts of our dreams, like the studio that you gave us. And we get to say
all sorts of our dreams.
Thank you to all these people who supported us in the previous month. Thank you all so much for your support.
Thank you for giving
if
us
you
all
have
sorts
no
of your
bucks
dreams.
to toss, head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we break the show up topic by topic, day by day, until we post the entire thing as one big video in MP3 the following Friday. Colin.
Yes.
What's your topic?
I want to talk about Gawker, Gawker.com. Specifically, the site is no more. It's defunct now as of the time we're writing this, or recording this. We're not writing anything, actually. And the saga surrounding what happened to Gawker and the demise of Gawker is very controversial. It's one of the most controversial things I've seen happen to a publication, maybe ever. And so I want to catch you guys up on basically what has happened, and then get your opinions on what happened, because this is a very divisive subject. The basic gist of it is that Gawker.com, which is the flagship of Gawker, Gawker owned until a few days ago, Deadspin and Kotaku and Gizmodo and Jalopnik and IO9 and all these sites. So I think they owned IO9. Yeah. So basically what happened is Univision, the Hispanic kind of conglomerate, came in and bought all of them except for Gawker. Like, they don't want Gawker.com. And because it's so toxic or whatever. But what happened basically is controversial, because a billionaire basically funded a lawsuit to put them out of business, like specifically designed to put them out of business.
This is a billionaire who had been slighted by
exactly.
them.
So
and outed by them.
So I was looking for like a way to distill this for people either at this table or more importantly out there that don't know exactly what happened in kind of a succinct way. And so I found a story it's going to take me a couple minutes to read it. It's on Vox and it says why Gawker.com is shutting down next week, which was written last week. So why Gawker shut down now? It says, Gawker.com, a gossip blog that spawned a multi-million-dollar media empire, is shutting down next week. The decision comes just 2 days after Univision won an auction to acquire Gawker Media, the parent company of Gawker.com, as well as websites like Gizmodo and Lifehacker. It might seem surprising for Univision to spend $130 million for the company and then immediately shutter its flagship brand, but the business logic behind the decision seems pretty clear. Gawker.com's brand has become so toxic that continuing to operate the site could have posed significant financial risks. Shuttering Gawker.com will allow Univision to get a fresh start. Other Gawker Media sites will apparently continue operating, and Univision's management will be able to focus their full energies on them. And what we basically heard, I think, is that 95% of Gawker's employees will actually continue to work for Univision. So it's pretty unprecedented. It's a pretty unprecedented deal. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens with that.
What am I doing? There we go. So it says Gawker's sensationalistic journalism brought about its downfall. Gawker Media's path to bankruptcy began with a decision by Gawker.com editors to publish a video of Hulk Hogan having sex without the permission of either Hogan or his partner. Hogan sued to argue that this was a violation of his privacy. A Florida jury agreed, awarding Hogan $140 million in damages earlier this year. Gawker didn't have $140 million, so the company was forced to declare bankruptcy. The company was put up for auction with the proceeds used to pay part of Hogan's judgment. We didn't know it at the time it was filed, but Hogan's lawsuit was secretly funded by technology billionaire Peter Thiel. Thiel has borne a grudge against Gawker since 2007, when Gawker published a post titled "Peter Thiel is totally gay, people." Thiel started to look for opportunities to punish Gawker for what he saw as irresponsible journalism. These were not isolated incidents. Gawker has outed others, including CNN anchor Anderson Cooper and Shepard Smith of Fox News. In one of its most infamous stories, Gawker reported on a New York media executive soliciting the services of a male escort. The man was not a public figure, and the piece was later removed after founder Nick Denton decided that the story had gone over the ethical line. In court, Hogan's lawyers sought to portray Gawker as an organization without a moral compass. It wasn't a hard argument to make. During one deposition, Hogan's lawyers asked a former Gawker editor if there was any situation in which a celebrity sex tape would not be newsworthy. Quote, if they were a child, was the response of the editor, Albert Delirio. And the lawyer asked under what age, and Delirio says 4, sarcastically. As a result, arguments about media freedom fell on deaf ears in the jury box. Jurors didn't buy arguments that the First Amendment protected Gawker's right to humiliate random celebrities by publishing videos of their most intimate moments. So here's where things get controversial. Whatever your view of Gawker's journalism, the case does raise questions about whether billionaire-funded lawsuits could threaten freedom of speech. Gawker isn't the only publication to be targeted by a disgruntled billionaire. Last year, the liberal magazine Mother Jones defeated a defamation lawsuit filed by Republican donor Frank Vandersloot. Winning the lawsuit cost Mother Jones, a relatively small nonprofit organization, and its insurance company $2.5 million in legal fees. If Vandersloot's goal was to punish Mother Jones for writing an accurate but unflattering story about him, a loss was almost as good as a victory. His lawsuit sought $74,999, staying just under the $75,000 threshold that would have allowed Mother Jones to move the case into federal court and away from an Idaho jury that might have favored the hometown plaintiff. So winning the lawsuit cost Mother Jones and its insurance company 30 times as much as the amount they would have lost if they would have paid if they lost. What was really ominous was what happened after Vandershoot's loss. He announced that he was setting up a $1 million fund to pay the legal expenses of people wanting to sue Mother Jones or other members of the liberal press. And as far as I know, no one has taken him up on the offer, but the threat of freedom of the press is obvious. Any news organization doing its job is going to make some enemies. If a wealthy third party is willing to bankroll lawsuits by anyone with a grudge, and defending each case costs millions of dollars, the organization could get driven out of business even if it wins every single lawsuit. Thiel insists that he has no quarrels with news organizations that conform to mainstream journalistic norms. But the key thing about his strategy is that he didn't sue Gawker for outing him, a case he probably would have lost. Instead, he waited for years until he can find other plaintiffs with stronger cases. That's a tactic that any billionaire could use against any news organization, and because most news organizations cover a wide variety of topics, the story that provoked a billionaire's ire might have nothing to do with the stories that actually trigger a lawsuit funded by that billionaire. In short, Thiel's war on Gawker could become a template for other extremely wealthy people with personal or ideological scores to settle against news organizations, and that's something to worry about even if you think Gawker deserves what it's getting. And then they go on and on. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything else. Yeah, that's basically it. That's basically the story. Mm-hmm. So what do you guys make of that? My personal take on this before to kind of set it up is Gawker got what was coming to it, and I was happy to see this happen. And I don't think Peter Thiel necessarily did anything wrong because Peter Thiel didn't use his money to bribe a jury or a judge. The jury actually rendered the verdict, and he basically paid about $10 million in legal fees for Hogan on Hogan's behalf, which we found out after the case was already over. Because the argument against this is simply this. People would basically admit, basically the admittance is Gawker did something wrong, but because this guy has enough money to shove them in a corner, they don't have the right to necessarily do that. In other words, Hogan would have had to fund his own campaign against these guys to make it righteous, even though the jury found Gawker liable anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's like a strange argument to be made, because that's basically saying, well, Thiel's a billionaire, so he has no right to fund this guy's thing, even though the court of law found that they were actually, Hogan's actually lawsuit was in the right, and it might be overturned by a court, appeals court, an appellate court. So anyway, I'll throw it to you guys, see what you guys think of it.
I mean, it's fucked up, right? Like, I think the Gawker thing is a victory, right? It is that they were being a bunch of assholes. They've been assholes for everybody, or forever, and everyone knew that. And so here you go. It's money being behind a good cause to stop them, and good cause being Hulk Hogan's sex tape. But, bankrolling this to make it happen. But then you see the opposite side of the spectrum where it sounds great in a vacuum, and that's the only thing. But then to jump to the Mother Jones example, yeah, that gets super scary, right? What about when somebody has an axe to grind with Kind of Funny and does something to that, where we have no way to, we never get to a jury because the legal fees crush us before we ever get anywhere remotely close to that.
Right. The thing that I'll say is that I don't think anyone disputes, at least I wouldn't dispute the fact that they probably have some First Amendment freedom to do this. Freedom of the press is sacred, but I just think that it's not that they fucked with the wrong person in Peter Thiel, even though they clearly did. It's that the things that they were writing are not newsworthy. They're not important.
Yeah,
they're ruining people for no reason.
It comes down to for one, it's case by case. But in this, I wholeheartedly I'm very happy that this has happened. This concept of irresponsible tabloid journalism, because the door swings both ways, right? The individual can't afford a lawsuit against. They can't afford to sue Gawker, right? How many people would have loved to have sued Gawker, but they don't have $10 million to do that with, right? So these people are being unethical, they're being predatory, and they're being just downright scumbags. And there's nothing newsworthy about a guy choosing to have an intimate moment with another person, regardless of whether or not he's married. It doesn't matter. The fact that he's a celebrity and the fact that you've got this tape and decided to make money off of it is that opens you up to pretty much anything at that point, right? And to Greg's earlier point, yeah, I mean, that could happen to us. Someone could come out of the weeds and just decide to have, volley a lawsuit against us. But it would especially happen if we decided to be assholes. If we were just complete and total reckless shitheads and we were completely slandering people all the time and committing libel and doing all these things, right? But we're not. We're trying to at least be respectful. But if we went out there, right now, and I was like, Tim Gettys does these horrible things, and I said it over and over and over again, and it just wasn't true, then I would expect to get sued, and that's a legal battle that I think has merit to it.
Sure, but you're taking the negative slant, or the positive slant, the negative slant on it. If we were the assholes, but what if we're the good people? We've totally said stuff that people could take offense with and have an axe to grind for a while, whether you're a publisher, celebrity, whatever. You know what I mean? If somebody we've said, and so it is that down the road, celebrity X that we did say, I don't like their movies or I don't like what they do, decides to is watching us like a hawk, and we do say something that is slanderous, that is libel, and then they come and get behind that person and fund them to come after us.
Sure, that would be terrible, right? But that's a different story from what we're talking about right now. Yes, I see both sides to it, and I know that sucks. But in that regard, I honestly think that we'd have hordes of people that would come to our side because that sounds
no,
terrible.
but I mean that's the whole
there
thing.
is a
Is
free- yeah.
I don't think it isn't. I
Well,
don't think it's the
but
opposite
you
we're
have
talking
to-
about. But you're using the Hulk Hogan example.
Right.
I'm using the Mother Jones example.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you know, that's the thing too, is like freedom of the press and freedom of speech is one thing, but where do you draw that line, right? Where do you become, where does the protection end? And with Gawker, I think it ended when they decided to take someone's very private moment and make money off of it. I think that's terrible. And that's the one thing, like CNN, they don't do that, right? They don't, credible news outlets, Wall Street Journal, things like that, they don't do that. They wouldn't, there's an ethical line that they would draw. And I just think the Gawker doesn't give a shit. Same with TMZ, same with all these rag sites that honestly, I could give a shit if they implode. And they probably will one day.
Will you read them?
Sure, it's fun. I do. I mean, but that's what it is. I don't look to them for journalism.
Sure.
These are rags. These are things that if I need a break and I want to see someone in a bikini, I see them in a bikini. But at no point do I feel good about myself for looking at that stuff. Right? I'm not enriching the world or myself by doing that. That's just a deep dark rabbit hole that occasionally I like to go down because you three guys drive me insane. And then there's Kevin. That's a special kind of crazy.
He is a special kind of something. So to Tim's point, like, what if it's true or not? I don't know if that. There might be examples. I'm not sure specifically because Gawker has written so much shit. I mean, you can go on and Google around like what is the fucked up shit that Gawker's written and done, and you can find just a plethora of information about that. No one disputes that what they're saying is true. Hulk Hogan did cheat on his wife with that woman who was like his best friend's wife.
Yeah,
and they have it on, and they have it on tape and they put it up. The thing is that what is the point of it? That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like it's character assassinating this man who, it's not even like
he did it to himself like a year later anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, like to me, it's a matter of public decency, to say like we don't support or condone this kind of character assassination of people that have nothing. Like the last straw for me was not even the Hogan thing; it was the Condé Nast CFO thing, which happened.
Remind me of that.
We were actually at SGC when this happened. I remember, and I was fucking livid when I saw this. I was like, I can't believe these guys keep getting away with this. What happened was the CFO of Condé Nast, who I don't think I'm conflating the stories. I think is relevant only because his brother is Timothy Geithner, who was the old Secretary of the Treasury. Mm-hmm. So in some remote way, he is important, I guess, but he's a private person. He's a CFO of a company, right? He was basically set up by like what appeared to be a gay prostitute or whatever, or a gay porn star to like meet up with him in Chicago. And then like all that shit was leaked. And I'm like, you just ruined this guy. You ruined him. Like, yeah, he was cheating on his wife and stuff. That's an immoral thing to do, but it's not part of the public record. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's a consistent argument I made with when we talked about Ashley Madison when the hack happened. I'm like, everyone was like celebrating. I'm like, who the fuck are you? The fucking morality police?
Yeah.
These are people's lives. And for all you know, some of these people probably maybe even had permission to do this kind of stuff. Or they have an open marriage or an open relationship or something like that. I'm like, you don't know. And even if you don't know, and even if what they're doing is the most malicious and awful thing and their spouse is blindsided, who the fuck are you to rain that kind of justice down on something that is like that? It's ridiculous. And so this seems to me to be a consistent kind of argument where Gawker peddled in this kind of shit constantly. And to Greg's point, yeah, like these things can happen to any organization, but we're not, we talk shit about publishers, for instance, every once in a while, their games. It's one thing to say Konami's a terrible publisher, right? It's another thing to manufacture or go into the private lives of the Konami executives and just publish character assassinating shit that's going to ruin them forever.
Yeah.
For no reason other than that, because it's going to get clicked on 500,000 or 1 million times, which is basically the only reason they were doing those kinds of things.
But I mean,
I would never cross that line. I would never do that.
But that seems like that's a reason though. Like that is why they're doing it. They're making money from it. Like that having headlines like that is going to get a lot of attention. Obviously going to cause a lot of commotion around people, and it's just going to get more and more and more and other articles written about it. And then you have money, right? And like that's their whole point with it.
Not anymore though.
The thing with they fucked the wrong person, because of money though. It all comes back to how much money each person has. And it's like the reason that we talked about this before, like TMZ and all the tabloids can get away with this. They have legal teams that will crush you with money. So they can do whatever they want, whether it's moral or immoral, because they can get away with it. And what's very hard to kind of comprehend here is like, so the idea of the morality being like, who are you to judge these people cheating on their wives or, whatever it is, that stuff. But then who are you to judge whether a website talks about that or not? And so who are you to judge whether some guy uses his money to shut the shit down? That's where the problem for me comes in. It's like, where does that morality line stop where I'm allowed to have an opinion on it? You know what I mean? I feel like all of those things, I'm just like, it needs to either be live your life, or there needs to be a clear distinction of you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to say this. Like the idea of freedom of speech, I think needs a little bit more rules, or else it needs no rules at all.
Freedom of speech isn't unfettered. I mean, the Supreme Court has, the famous case of you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, for instance.
Right.
That's illegal. The argument would be like, well, I can say whatever I want. I'm like, no, you actually can't.
You can't even damages other people or puts other people in harm's way.
Now, I believe in mostly unfettered freedom of speech, but I agree with Tim that there has to be some sort of limit on it, or at least some rule set. And I think the rule set doesn't necessarily need to be dictated by law, but rather dictated by what is decent. To the point of like a random company like Konami, which we don't like very much. Like we don't like their tactics with Kojima and stuff like that. It's one thing to talk about that, but I couldn't even first of all tell you an executive's name over there because it's not about one person. It's about the way an organization has treated a person or proceed to treat a person. But I would never delve into a person's private life or into a person's dirty laundry and the skeletons in their closet and make that relevant, because it's fucking not. It's like none of that stuff's ever relevant except for if the person is. I think the line, frankly, is drawn at people that represent us. Right, on a political stage or something like that. So, like, I do think it's relevant that Bill Clinton got a blowjob from an intern in the West Wing. I think that's absolutely relevant.
Right,
and then lied about it. I think that's absolutely positively relevant. He's the president of the United States.
Sure,
like you are under a microscope. You put that there. The CFO of Condé Nast is just a dude with a family.
Unless Condé Nast is being accused of doing something insidious, right? And then that opens up.
Right, then
that opens up a little bit more leeway for that sort of thing, right?
If Condé Nast,
it's all context.
If Condé Nast executive board went on record with an with a homophobic rant or something like that, for instance.
Yeah.
And then
it turns
they were
out
like,
that
hey,
he's gay,
you're gay.
Right.
Then maybe you might want to go down that path.
Sure.
But even then, I don't know that that's necessarily what you want to do, right? But that didn't happen. And the point is that like Hulk Hogan didn't do anything to draw the ire. Peter Thiel didn't do anything to them.
Yeah, I mean,
Peter,
again,
and I can't help but kind of, in a way, and I know it's not maybe a tasteful thing for some people, but I can't help but respect Peter Thiel's like long game, of being like they outed him.
Yeah.
How is that okay with anyone to be? They outed Anderson Cooper. They outed these people, and I don't think that that's okay. That's a very personal thing. That's a personal thing.
Yeah.
If Anderson Cooper was on CNN with a homophobic rant one night,
right,
then maybe you want to say like, hey, Anderson Cooper, we know your secret. What the hell are you talking about? You're a hypocrite.
Right.
But to just target him because he exists, to just target Peter Thiel because he has money and he's conservative, which is, by the way, why I think they did it. And, to target Hulk Hogan because he's just a name that and people are going to want to see his sex tape. Mm-hmm. I just think it's tasteless. I think it's what happened to Gawker is a victory for decency. And frankly, like the fact that they were able to spin off the other, like I think I like Deadspin. I think that they've crossed the line before. What comes to mind for me is like the Brett Favre dick pic shit and all that kind of stuff that happened when he was on the Jets. I'm like, well, I guess it's interesting, but like I don't know that I need to know this. I don't know that this is really appropriate. But they also do real hard journalism there, and Kotaku's Saved and Gizmodo and all these which is their biggest brand. I think it's complicated. I think that this has drawn an interesting line of division though amongst people online. If you just go on Twitter, for instance, and search for Gawker and see what people are saying about it, some people are really some people, very big people, are celebrating this, and some people are thinking this is terrible. And I understand the thing of like you want to not let the ball roll down the hill if you can't control it when it gets to the bottom of the hill, like when it's like really picking up steam. And could this like bowl over other people? And they bring up Mother Jones and all that kind of stuff. But I think you can differentiate those things. What Vandersloot is doing with Mother Jones is totally different. Mother Jones is a website I don't like very much, but setting up a legal fund to sue liberal media is ridiculous, right? But that doesn't mean that necessarily Peter Thiel funding Hulk Hogan's lawsuit as a proxy basically was necessarily in bad taste either. They're different. And I think that and because I don't like the insinuation that like Peter Thiel funded this and therefore it's not legitimate. Like the ACLU funded $140 million worth of lawsuits last year.
Yeah.
The people that they were defending didn't fund anything at all. Are you gonna make the same argument with them? Like they're designed, of course, as a nonprofit to defend people, but the point is that they were also using money from donations to defend people that could not afford to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Just because Peter Thiel's a billionaire and Hulk Hogan's a well-known name, they don't have the right to also go down that road. I just don't know if I agree with that.
Right, like this. I mean, but that's the distinction, right? Is like who do you see as being on the side of the right, on the righteous, right? And in the Gawker case, it's Peter Thiel. I mean, he was wronged, and he has every right both legally and, in my opinion, ethically, to want to right that wrong. If there are other organizations that are just setting out to basically stifle or gag mainstream journalists, that to me rings wrong. That's wrong, right? That is an infringement on freedom of speech, freedom of the press.
But how do you stop it?
There's no obviously one rule for everything, but it is a case by case, and you have to hope to God that people are doing the right thing, right? You have to just trust that people are actually doing the right thing. I think if you were to look at it though, I think there are organizations like Gawker that are way more of a problem than the opposite, right? Where there are private organizations trying to shut down the press. Like I just don't. Again, Gawker not a mainstream press site in my opinion. Like not creditable journalists. These people decided that they wanted to roll around in the mud, and guess what? That's what they're going to be seen as.
That's the thing and that's the unfortunate thing people have been bringing up, which is it sucks that Jason Schreier is getting caught up in this by with Kotaku, not literally, but Kotaku is kind of getting drawn down with this, and Jalopnik and these sites that people really like that don't really cross the line, right? We were just talking about on what was it we were talking about, the Kotaku stuff, games journalism and all that kind of stuff. Or we're talking about on Gamescast, I think, about
sources and stuff.
Yeah, about how like Kotaku I think does real journalism, and I think they do because they focus on the games. And I think I made the point, and I'll reiterate the point in case I didn't make it, that it would be different if Kotaku wrote a story about how Activision's CEO is cheating on his wife. The fuck does that have to do with anything?
Right.
They don't write those stories. Their flagship was writing those kinds of stories. And the ironic thing and the thing that I think is kind of sweet justice about what happened to Gawker specifically with Hulk Hogan is that they had the chance and were asked by a judge to take the video down, and they refused. And they wrote this big dick stroking piece about how like we're not taking it down and stuff like that. Well, fuck you. You reap what you sowed. Like you guys were too big for your britches, and these fucking think pieces that are like lamenting the death of Gawker. Like shut up. Like these guys have contributed nothing to the world at all, and we are better off without them. Doesn't mean that their satellite sites we're better off without. We're not going to be without them. They're going to exist in perpetuity, right. And that's fantastic because they should be separated. And I feel bad for their tenuous connection to this bullshit. And Nick Denton's like, who's the founder of Gawker, and these parting pieces, these cry like about how they were wronged and a billionaire took them out. No, a jury took you out. A jury of your peers took you out. And let's not lose sight of that. Peter Thiel didn't bribe anyone. Peter Thiel didn't shove money into a suitcase and give it to the judge. Peter Thiel didn't give $100 bills to everyone in the jury. He funded a team of lawyers that represented them. And Gawker had enough money to defend itself and did defend itself. But they lost. Mm-hmm. If they won the case, this wouldn't have happened. So the entire line of argument that a billionaire funded this and put them out is not right. It's just fundamentally flawed. It's a flawed argument. It doesn't make any sense. That's why I don't understand why it's being peddled. It doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So I'll be really interested to see what the audience out there thinks about this because it is a divisive argument. But I think this is a victory for decency. And I don't think we have enough of that in the world anymore. And I don't think we have enough, especially on the internet. You can't just go around flapping your fucking mouth about people's private lives. You can't do it. It's not right. Whether or not you can legally get away with it is another thing entirely. But it shouldn't be accepted in decent society to want to watch people fall and watch people, again, the Ashley Madison's a great example. Everyone's celebrating this. And I said right away, I'm like, why are we celebrating this? This is terrible. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible thing. This is going to ruin real people. People are probably going to commit suicide. People are probably going to like lose their jobs, kids, lose their jobs, lose everything. And we're celebrating that to get for a thing that you're not even going to think about again in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. These people are going to have to deal with it for the rest of their lives. Condé Nast CFO has to deal with that for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. And what did he do? Nothing. And I think that's so. I'll be interested to see but I think this is a victory for decency, and I do think most people realize that. And while I respect the argument that this could be a slippery slope, I don't think it is. Because I think you can easily sever the Mother Jones situation, for instance, from this. That sounds a little bit more shady to me than Peter Thiel being like, you guys fucked me, and I'm going to fuck you.
Right.
In the court of law. And that's what I mean. Like, we're going to go through, the entire system's going to see it through. Gawker didn't run out of money halfway through the case.
Right. That's the thing, though.
Gawker didn't like run out of money and be like, we can't defend ourselves.
But that's an important distinction to make, right? Is that this wasn't because there are oftentimes you hear about trials where it's like we can't sue these people because or if we get sued by them, they'll shut us down because it's not about winning. It's just about milking the trial for so long or bilking the trial for so long that one of us will go bankrupt. That's not what this was about.
No, it didn't, because they didn't go bankrupt until it was rendered, right? Until the verdict was rendered. And
now $141 million, stiff.
That is stiff.
Stiff for a porno. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, stiff. Well, pornos are known to be stiff.
Exactly.
But
that is a brutal. Like it could. I mean, let's be honest. Like, how much money did it really cost? I get there's damages and emotional distress and things like that. But 140.
Yeah, and it might get overturned. And I'm actually pretty sure it will.
I'm sure it would.
But it's too late for them. Like Gawker's like basically handcuffed until it is overturned, and they're just not able to do it. And the big theme. I really do implore people to go read about this stuff from Nick Denton. I think Max Reed, who's a guy that used to work there. I think he works at the New Yorker now. A lot of people wrote about this from all sorts of different angles. The one thing I see from the Gawker elite, or a lot of them, or the people I've read, they just cannot take responsibility for what they did. They just can't. They will pass the buck as much as possible on this one. They will just not take responsibility for their actions. And it's so frustrating to read this stuff from them. Like, dude, how could you ever justify this? You're not doing journalism. It's not important what you're saying. Take some responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
That would go a long way with me, and I think a lot of other people. If instead of reading Nick Denton's piece, basically boo-hooing what happened and saying that basically in a nutshell that they were basically, sabotaged by this man or whatever. Why don't you just take some responsibility for what you guys allowed to happen for years? And you got away with it for years, and you just pushed it too far.
Yep, I agree.
So